Thank you. And thank you everyone for allowing us to be here this evening. My name is John Tavaglione. I'm a fourth generation resident of Riverside County. Family settled here, and my mother's side settled here in 1887. I'm currently a member in my 5th term of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors and chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Prior to that, I spent 1 year on the Riverside City Council and then 8 years as an appointed member for the City of Riverside Public Utilities Commission. I'm very pleased to be married to my wife Jan, sitting here in the orange sweater. I think it's orange. For going on 43 years, actually 43 years going on 44. And we're very, very, very thankful to have 2 wonderful, healthy children, a daughter-in-law, and the best, wonderful grandchildren, 2 of the best, wonderful grandchildren in the world, and 2 dogs, Ralphie and Rosie. I'm running for Congress because, quite frankly, I am fed up with the direction Washington is going. Our country is on the wrong track. We need to get it back on the right track. Our economy has stagnated for too many years, 7 years, 6 years. Our economic growth is critical to the survival of our nation, and we must do what we can to put people back to work. And then most importantly, I'm fed up with the partisan bickering. We must bring our congressional members together to work on behalf of those who put them in office, and that's you, the public. We must find common ground. We need to get back to some sanity, collegiality, and especially leadership in our U.S. Capitol. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So as you can see, we have quite a diverse array of candidates on stage. So I'm going to get right in and ask the first question. And many of you touched a little bit about this when you did your introduction. So with all that's going on in Washington right now, and we know that it's a tough job, why do you want to be a congressional representative for the 41st District? Anna?
Well, I believe that we need some more parity. We have only 17% of women and the rest of men. So that way that we can have common interests, and then implementation would be much easier if we have some more women voices. And secondly, nurses are very persuasive by nature. My patients, everybody takes advice, and I'm sure I'll be able to influence the others in Congress to do what is right. They all know what is right, but the problem is the influence of money over the political process. They listen to one who gives them all these millions of dollars, as opposed to listening to people, because most people don't vote, so there is no mandate. So I've been working very hard to make sure that the young people vote, especially young, and I'm campaigning like crazy everywhere and sending that message. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Anna. George?
With a diversified background in engineering, geography, business, I will be able to do something for the country. It needs somebody who knows everything to solve everything that might arise. Thank you.
Thanks.
Why do I want this job? I'm tired of empty promises by people that want to go to Washington and represent us. And I want to go to Washington and represent you. And I don't care what party you are. I don't care what background you are. The representative represents each and every person in his district and the nation. So I want to go to Washington to represent you, bring this government back inside the limits of the Constitution, and put the people back first in the country, and not the big business, not big corporations, and not the government.
Mark?
I want to go to Washington to work with President Obama to bring jobs to this district and a sense of renewal. You know, I remember as a young 13-year-old sitting in front of my grandfather's black and white television watching the House impeachment proceedings against Richard Nixon. And I remember the very eloquent speech of Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. And I remember her talking about her faith in the Constitution. And I was inspired at that moment to give myself over to a career in public service. I never forgot that. And I want to bring more than anything to Washington, a faith in the Constitution, a belief in the greatness of our country. I believe that our government is a great one and we can make it work.
Thank you, Mark. John.
Thank you. I'm going to Washington because I, quite frankly, am concerned, as I mentioned earlier, about the future and our children's future, my grandchildren's future. Again, we're on the wrong track. We have to bring it back to the right track and focusing towards the middle, not too far to the left, not too far to the right. We have to focus towards the middle on behalf of everyone. Our children, their future, our economic future for this country are critical, and we must bring it into focus, and the only way we're going to do that is through leadership. And I believe I have the proven track record to do that and the leadership qualities to make that happen back in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, John. So we're going to move on to our next question. So each of you touched upon it a little bit with the need to work across the aisle, move it more to the middle. What will you do specifically to help increase the bipartisanship and to help get those laws passed and stop the bottlenecks that have been occurring thus far? Anna?
Well, we have to, everybody has a good side, every person has a good side. So you have to appeal to that good side. And, explain that we have to, if we really love our country, we have to do what is right. They all say they're so patriotic and they love America. And I think, if you love America, then let's help the young people. They're in the negotiate and everybody else. They help the poor people because now they're trying to cut the food stamps for the poor, for the single mothers, and they're blaming the deficit on the one who have the least. As opposed, subsidizing the big corporation, the oil company. Why do they need subsidies when they make billions of dollars in profit? And so the other corporations who have all these loopholes, cut the loopholes off, everybody has to pay a fair share. We do not ask for nothing more and nothing less. Everybody to pay the fair share. A corporation and the rich do not pay the fair share. And that's all we want, and it will happen. And if I'm elected, I can promise you that.
Thanks, Anna. George?
I will make changes and implement things good for the people. For example, improve transport for jobs.
Okay. All right, good.
One of the first things you got to do when you get to Washington is we have to create an environment where people can get a job. And one of the ways to do that is to repeal overburdensome regulations like the Dodd-Frank bill and the Sarbanes-Oxley bill, which basically says if you make less than $250 million a year, you can't borrow money. And the overburdensome regulation is going to cost you more money. You're going to have to lay people out and put people out of work. So you get rid of these regulations, put people back to work, and then you start reaming in the federal government, bring it back inside the limits of the Constitution. Stop giving away our money to foreign countries. We give $1.2 trillion away every year. Our infrastructure is graded at a D level. If we take that money that we give foreign countries in 5 years, it's over $5 trillion. We can put our infrastructure back up to a B+. That's what I'd like to do.
Thank you, Vince. John. Mark, I'm sorry. Mark.
Thank you. Well, I have a 22-year record of serving on a nonpartisan board, reaching across political divide, working with Republican members of my board. I've voted for chairpersons who are Republicans from the Riverside Community College Board. I come from a family mostly Republicans. My mother and father, my brothers, all have Republican heritage. So we're in a community where we are accustomed to working with one another. But what I hope will solve the impasse is to focus on common sense and not ideology. We can, I think, focus on what will work for the country, and we can do that by getting past our ideology and working for common sense.
Thank you, Mark. John.
Thank you. Well, again, and same as Mark, I've worked in a nonpartisan office actually for over 20 years when you include the city council, and as well, I've worked in the private sector, not only running my own business, corporate industry for over 25 years, and in both of those experiences, through my public career and my private career, in business, especially those of you that are in business, you know that you have to reach common ground. You always agree to disagree on issues, but in the end, you come together to try to do what's right for the whole. And that's what I intend to do when I get to Washington, D.C. I think it goes a long way by mentioning that I'm endorsed by some very strong Democrats. Mayor Ron Loveridge from the city of Riverside, former Senator Robert Presley, Supervisor Tom Mullen, and many, many others. And they've endorsed me because they know, in fact, I am going to work across party lines and represent all of the people.
Okay, thank you, John. So are there any questions from the audience at this time? No? Then do you have a card? You weren't given a card. Okay. The mic? Okay, you can step up to the mic. Please try to keep your question brief.
Madam and gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening. I have a question, and I want to kind of piggyback off what Mr. DeCama said about dysfunctional Congress. We have the most dysfunctional Congress that we have had in this country for the last 50 years. The main reason for that is because we will not work together. We are either Republicans, we are either Democrats. When you guys, or whoever is elected here, goes to Congress, you're going to be a freshman with very little power, very little control of anything. But you have the opportunity to start a trend by working across the aisle with the Democrats or working across the aisle with the Republicans. So my question here is, would you sign something that says, well, like Grover Norquist has had congressmen and congressmen to sign.
Okay, can you get to the question? Because
Sure.
you have time.
Okay, sorry. Would you be willing to sign an agreement saying that if you are elected to Congress, you will agree to disagree, but you will work for the benefit of the people that elected you and sent you there?
So that's pretty similar to the last question. So does anyone want to elaborate on their previous answers? John?
I would. Thank you. It's a great question. When I first decided to run, and I want to say, yes, it's going to be tough. I'm going to be a freshman. I'm 64 years old. Or, excuse me, I'm giving myself, in 36 days or so, I'll be 64 years old. I'm not going because I need to go to Congress. I'm going because I want to go to Congress and change what's happening back there. And when I first decided to run and went back and talked to the Republican Party and the leadership, I looked them straight in the eyes and I said, I am not going to sign any pledges. I will not sign pledges. In the end, I will never abdicate my responsibilities that people have voted me into office for, because you never know what you might have to do in a very difficult situation. So, and no, I do not support the Ryan bill, the Ryan budget, and I will not dismantle Medicare nor Social Security. We need to fix it. It needs to be fixed, that's for sure, but I will not dismantle it.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
The only reason I am running for Congress is because I believe that we could work together. But we do need some more women with more common sense. And I've been on the battlefield really for the last 30 years. I've been involved in every single issue that affects me from right. You can imagine. I spend more time fighting for causes than I spend making the bill. So I really think that I could influence the argument, because we have to know, they are competing how many pieces of legislation they are going to pass. 2,000 a year, 500,000 a piece, and they don't even read those pieces of legislation. Let's limit how many pieces of legislation we will pass, so we can concentrate and pass the laws that are helpful, that do make a difference. And that in turn, that will save lots of money, and will solve so many problems that we as a nation face.
Okay, before we answer the next question, can I get each of you to speak closer into the mic? They're having a hard time hearing in the back. Thank you. George, if you want to chime in?
I will keep Social Security as well.
Okay.
Well, in later questions, I'll be saying how I'll be able to do that, so I don't want to repeat it again.
Okay. The question was, and I don't want to muffle your question, I think it was something along the lines of, would you sign a petition to agree to work together across the aisle and get things done? So would you be willing to go a step further and, you know, sign something to let us know that you are going to do what it takes to get things that matter to us?
I'm saying a pledge for term limits, and I've set myself at 6 years. If I can't do anything in 6 years, I'm going to go home. I will work with Democrats, Independents, Republicans. This is not a political party problem. This is a problem for all Americans, every one of us. And every one of us need to sit down and solve the problem, and put the solutions to work. And if it takes me signing a pledge to say I will work with Democrats, I'll work with Democrats, I'll sign it. But I don't want to make empty promises. If the Democrats don't want to work with me, then actually the signing of the pledge will be worthless. So I will promise that I will not violate the Constitution. All the rest of that, I will do the best that I can do, and that's my promise to you.
Mark, did you want to add anything?
Sure. You know, I will echo the words of our president. He said, you know, in politics we can disagree without being disagreeable. And I can agree to disagree without being disagreeable, and I will do my best to engage in civil debates on the House floor. And you know, I'm pleased to hear that at least one of the candidates here is committed to opposing the extreme and what Newt called the radical Ryan budget. I further will pledge myself not to vote for any speaker who will allow such legislation to come to the floor. Whoever controls the House controls the agenda, and I believe that we need a leadership that will not allow such divisive legislation to come to the floor, and that's my pledge, and I invite others to do the same.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Yes, ma'am.
Does someone have a mic?
Right here.
I'm going to move forward so you can actually see me. Yes, I was back there where the mic was. Good evening, candidates. My name is Ruthie Goldcorn. I've lived in Moreno Valley for 23 years and have seen a lot of districts. And now we have one district and one unified city, which is very nice. My question to you as federal candidates is whether or not you have any foresight, I'm going to ask you to be Karnak, any foresight at all as to whether or not you believe that there is the probability, the possibility, or any chance whatsoever of creating a barrier to ideologic politics and getting on with the business of public policy. I believe the gridlock and the problems lie in ideologic politics and everyone's id and ego. I'd like to know whether or not you believe that there is a way to break through, and if you are the kind of individual who could do that. We all talk about, yes, I'm going to work across the aisle, I'm going to do all those wonderful things, but it is the ideologic politics that is the barrier, and do you have any insight as to whether or not that can be changed? Thank you.
The major problem is the way we finance the campaigns. So we do need campaign finance reforms. As you know, for the 2 years, most elected officials, they keep raising money. By the time they are elected, they keep raising money for the next election because they raise $3-4 million and $30 million for Senate. And so they are basically getting that money from the corporations and the wealthy. And that's the reason they are, all the decisions are being made that are in the interest of the one who do fund their campaigns. And without campaign finance reform, it is very difficult to have any changes unless we as people decide to keep electing people who are not spending tons of money, but are depending on the regular citizens to vote for them because they should know what they stand for. But the establishment doesn't allow you even to speak up. If you don't raise tons of money, you do not exist. It's all about money. And so I wish that there are more people who are engaged and think about those issues, because that is our biggest problem we face in decisions that are made in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Anna. George? Do you remember the question?
Sometimes a politician may want to do something, hope to do something, but then it just don't have the votes that would get to a successful ending. They may want to do it, but then when the House votes for it, there is just not enough votes to carry out the agenda.
Okay. The question was, can we move past the ideology and get the public policy?
This is what I've been saying all along is Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we all need to sit down, quit playing politics. People come first. The American citizens, we need to roll up our sleeves. We need to do what's right for them. And there is a possibility that if elected, I can go to Washington, that I will not get my way. I will not get anything passed. There's a great possibility. If I can't do anything in 6 years, I'm going to go home. Because if I can't do it in 6 years, I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm not going to waste your money and your time fooling myself. So, yeah, there's a great possibility that what I would like to see happen will not happen.
Thank you, Vince. Mark?
Well, I believe that there's nothing wrong with standing up passionately for what you believe and devoting your life to great ideals. And as Americans, we must respect that. I do agree with Anna that the huge sums of money funding super PACs have increased the combativeness and just sheer brutal words that go across into mailboxes and the airwaves. We must address that with campaign finance reform. But I think, going back to what I said, what I felt when I saw Congresswoman Margaret Jordan speak about her belief in the Constitution, her faith in our country, I think we need to keep returning back to that place. And ultimately, we can come together despite our great differences and do what's right for our country.
Thank you, Mark. John?
Thank you. Well, my answer to Ms. Goldcorn is I surely hope so. You know, all you have to do today is look at the popularity of our U.S. Congress, look at the popularity of our state legislature. It's the lowest of the lowest that it's ever been. And the reason it's the lowest of the lowest is because the citizens are fed up with the way partisan politics has evolved over the years. And I personally would not be working as hard as I am working to reach this level of office in U.S. Congress to represent you if I didn't think there was hope. And I'm going because I do believe there is hope. I believe that finally, at some point in time soon, our federal government and our elected officials will get the message that enough is enough. Let's start working on behalf of all the people, not just one segment of the population.
Thank you, John. Oh, wow. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Robert Burks, and obviously you guys missed that question that this gentleman asked earlier. And the question is, will you be willing to sign an agreement or contract with this community that you will work for this community if you are elected? Do you understand the question? Well, Mr. Tavaglione, you mentioned the Republican, that you wouldn't have an agreement with them. And we understand that, we appreciate that. But the question is, will you be willing to sign an agreement with the people in this room, just for the example, that you will represent them regardless of who the president is, so we can stop the gridlock?
You're asking me directly? Yes.
Everybody.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Absolutely. As I said a moment ago, I will not sign any pledges to not raise taxes or to do things that you, the voters, vote me in to do that may be needed in an emergency or in extreme fiscal challenges. I will not sign pledges like that. I will sign a pledge to every citizen of the 41st District that I will represent them to my utmost and the best of my ability, because in the end, when you all go to the polls, whether it be June 5th or November 8th, I think it is, I don't know who votes for me. What I do know is that when I prevail in November, that I will have a responsibility to represent all of you. And if that takes a sign, you want me to come to your house and sign that, I will do that.
Well, we can get the thing together.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, if what you're talking about is a general pledge to serve the district, particularly Moreno Valley, I would gladly sign that pledge. In addition to taking an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. In addition to pledging that I will oppose the Ryan Medicare budget, I will certainly do my utmost to serve this community and to serve this nation.
Thank you. Ben?
Yes, I'd sign a pledge to represent the people of this district and of this country, absolutely. I have signed a pledge to do my best to repeal the Inheritance Tax, and I'll make a pledge right tonight that I will not vote to raise taxes until every wasted dollar spent by the federal government is gone. They spend wasting trillions and trillions of dollars, and I will not vote for any tax increase, period.
Thank you. George?
Your question is partly that of number 3 here. First, I want to say the 2/3 majority is a sensible approach. I will start with agreeable issues first. That means when I confer with other members of Congress with different parties. Then I'll try to compromise and be open-minded, and there will be no great law. That's what you asked, and I hope there won't be. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anna?
I have great ideas how to use our tax dollars more effectively. And every congressperson who try to eliminate fraud, corruption. I see so much fraud that is going everywhere. So much corruption, so much waste of tax dollars for benefit of the few. And then the person who is able to produce most of saving will bring maximum of the money to their district. And believe me, I am the one who will be bringing more money to our district than anyone else, because that's what we've been doing for 20 years, looking for the military industrial complex, 500,000 bases all around the world. The private contractors who don't even know how much money to invest for them, they get paid $100,000, $200,000 salaries. That has to be all on the table. Transparency. There is no transparency. CIA can spend whatever they want to do it well. So we have to base all our efforts in accounting where every dollar goes.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Can I get it? Lenny Frank Bailey, I'd like to hear from each of the candidates your position on President Obama's health care bill that was passed by Congress. We don't know where the Supreme Court is going to come out on the mandate issue. However, we are hearing that Republicans want to overturn the bill on day 1. We also know that by 2014, if the mandate stands, then people with pre-existing conditions will have more options for health care. So I'd like to hear from each of the candidates. Will you stand with Obama on the health care reform bill, which has been passed, or will you work to repeal it with the congressional Republicans who've indicated that that's going to be their goal on day 1?
Thank you. Mark, John, Anna, we're going to start this way. Okay. Thank you, John.
I knew that question was going to come up. But, you know, in every bill, there's good in every bill. And if I were to vote today to repeal the entire Affordable Care Act, or what many are calling Obamacare, there are parts of it that, yes, I think that were not structured well enough to ensure that we have an adequate healthcare system for all people. I think the issue of dealing with pre-existing conditions is critical. We have to make sure that's in there. I think the ability to keep our kids on our policies, on the parents' policies until they're 26 is critical. We have to keep that in there. But the bottom line is our nation's healthcare system is broken and we must fix it, and it shouldn't be repealed in total, but it needs to be fixed and modified or amended, I guess is a better way to say it.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I congratulate the President for a very great accomplishment, which was to get forward a bill that would protect people from being denied coverage for pre-existing conditions, that would allow children to stay on their parents' policies until they're age 26, and it closed the donut hole in prescription drugs for senior citizens, so they don't have to pay exorbitant out-of-pocket expenses for their medications. This bill, this legislation, is virtually a carbon copy of what Governor Romney put through in Massachusetts. And it was conceived by the Conservative Heritage Foundation. Of all the possible forms we could have come up with, this was a compromise. This was not going for the ultimate ideological end. And I will stand for a bill on this bill as a good start.
Thank you. Ben?
I would do everything in my power to try and repeal the Affordable Health Care Act because it totally violates the Constitution. It violates the rights of every American citizen. When this bill takes effect, when you sell a house, you're going to pay sales tax on this house. It gives the IRS the ability to go into your private lives. Nowhere in the Constitution does it allow the federal government to mandate that you buy insurance. Everybody has the right to health care insurance, and everybody has the right to the best health care that this country can put out. One of the things that you want to do is allow insurance companies to cross state lines and compete, and you're going to lower the health care insurance.
Thank you, Vince. George?
I worked with Senator Cranston when he was senator. Then came Boxer, and I worked with her and Trent Lott. I have a book, The Articles of Peace and Poetry, Often for Nature. If you go to smartvoter.org and find me as a candidate, you know where you can get a hold of that book in libraries all over the world. There's a page on healthcare. I spent that long time when I tried to get President Clinton to establish it. He wasn't able to, and now Obama has something. I would suggest certain changes and hope there's an agreement, because if it's repealed, then you won't have any health care for a few years till they come up with something else. So it's not good when you don't have anything for a few years, and it's cats and dogs all over again.
Thank you, George. Anna?
I really agree with that, for sure.
Anna, can you speak in the mic? They can't hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I will not repeal it. We have to protect Medicare. We have to make sure that to start the drug companies from down to the prices, because many senior citizens can afford the medicine. They have to choose between their food and between the medicine, and that cannot go on. Many AIDS patients in the same situation. Many children have problems with different illnesses as well. And we just have to do improvement. Constitution wasn't good for everybody. That's why we have 19 amendments. So if we were to improve, with California Nurses Association, we believe in public financing of healthcare. And eventually we'll have that. So it's a good start, and we will improve it further as we try to progress.
Thank you, Anna. So now we're going to do our 1-minute wrap-up, and we're going to start with John.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I know that all of you are very busy, probably many of you are commuters. I just want to tell you that I believe I am the best qualified to run for U.S. Congress. Not only am I a little older, not not that bad. I have experience of over 2 decades in public office, in addition to 25 years in business. And I know how to bring, most importantly, I know how to bring people together. And our country is, as I said in the beginning, on the wrong track. The only way we're going to bring our country together is through leadership of both parties, working across party lines towards the benefit of all Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark.